Good morning. Sorry that I have to have you guys come so early. Are you guys all awake? Welcome to our last lecture. After the first hour, we'll begin with our first two presentations. One announcement, and that is I will be making comments on each of your presentation, and based on those comments, you will be given a chance to revise, okay? Which will help you with a better grade, of course. So the final, the deadline for submitting your revised version is June 23rd, which is exactly 1 week after your final exam. As you know, your final exam will take place on June 13th at 9 o'clock in this room, and it'll cover only 3 topics. What? Yeah, that's isn't that what I said? June 16th. June 23rd, sorry. June 23rd is deadline for submitting your revised version. June 7th, no, 16th is your final exam. And you'll be asked on only 3 topics, which are multicultural Korea, urbanization, and economic development. So I don't see any reason why, you know, everyone should not get an A+ on the final exam. And yes, I haven't even started to grade your midterm exam, but I'll try over the weekend, this weekend. Yes.
Does that mean that we will have grades for them?
Again, I'll try my best. No promise. Okay, since no excuse, you know, it's just, I'm trying my best. Okay? Any other questions? All right. Remember how we're aging at a record pace, and how Korea will take only like 18 years to make a transition from aging to aged society, and it'll also break the world record held by Japan, whereby we will make a transition from aged society to super aged society in just 7-8 years. Okay, and but the aging is a global phenomenon. Okay, the only problem with Korea is that it is aging so rapidly. Okay, so as you can see in this pictograph, for the longest time in the world, I mean, for about 99% of the world history, young people have, so the population aged 0 and 4 have always exceeded that of the population aged 60 or over, okay, for like 99% of the world history. But from about 2040 or so, it'll reverse, and it'll stay that way forever. And that's not going to change, because the trend is that people are having less number of children. Okay? And this is, you can see how the dark is 1950. Okay? This is a very sort of nice population pyramid. Pink, 2020. Okay? And 2050 is red, and by 2100, blue. Okay, so you can see how those who are aging are, I mean, those who are aged in this age bracket, it's getting bigger, right? So that's what's in store for you guys. That's why the talk of people in their 40s and 50s should be redefined as not people in their middle ages, but young adults, believe it or not. Okay? I'm a young adult, according to the new UN definition. So this is what Korean population pyramid looked like in the 1970s. This is what it sort of looks like today. So there's the largest number, the biggest population comprises of those in their like 40s and 50s and 30s to a certain extent. But if you go to the 2050, it's only 35 years from today, you see how the population pyramid, can't even call it pyramid, sort of an inverse pyramid, right? Or pyramid standing on its head, right? So the opposite of what you saw, what you see in 1970. Okay? Same thing. So this is an interesting comparison because this is the world sort of figures. So that's Korea. Sorry, I don't have this in English. So in the 1970s, the world population pyramid looked pretty much the same as that of Korea. But in 2010, you see how Korea's population sort of a distribution looks a little bit different, sort of a beehive, right? And then in 2050, it looks much different from the world population sort of distribution. So, what are the reasons for the rapid aging of the population in Korea? We already talked about this. First is life age, increase in life expectancy. Okay, and but the more important, so you can see how this color is female, red male, and the blue is overall. Okay, so currently it's slightly below 80, not quite 80. Okay, for overall life expectancy in Korea. It's still a wonder as to why women outlive men. Okay, but it is argued that the gap will narrow over time because women are now working. They are subject to more stress than ever before. More women now drink, smoke, right? And engage in many, extracurricular activities, very sort of like, physically demanding sports. So the argument goes that the gap will narrow. I mean, just even very slightly. So this is fertility rate in Korea, and this is the life expectancy, right? Have I read that right? Yeah, life expectancy in 1970 was below 65, right? So, again, two reasons. One is increase in life expectancy, which accounts for the rapid aging of the population. Second reason is low fertility rate, and this is more alarming. And fertility rate is the number of babies born to women aged between 15 and 49. Okay? And Korea's fertility rate was 1.08 in 2005, and that's still Korea's record. Okay, 1.08. And look at this. In 1970, it was 4.53. So if you wonder, if you look at your parents, I'm sure you have like uncles and aunts, like 4 or 5 on each side, right? Because that's what it was like in the 1970s. I mean, even if you go back even earlier, you know, a lot of people had like, you know, 6, 7 offspring, right? I myself have 4 brothers and 1 sister. Okay? And so it's been going down the hill, and I have the figure up to 2009, but it went up a bit in the last few years, but it's again down to 1.1 something. Okay, so basically, couples are having just 1 child. Okay? And is that a good thing? According to population experts, you need about 2 children born to a woman, born to each woman in that reproductive age from 15 to 49, to have stable population growth. Okay, so and we call that population replacement fertility rate, and that is 2.1. The Korea's fertility rate is half the desired level of 2.1. Okay? And I want to show you how okay. What are the reasons for the low birth rate in Korea? Yes? Okay. More women are working outside the home. So that sort of delays marriage, and in turn, that sort of delays sort of pregnancy, right? Because you have to work, and you're concerned probably more with career objective than having a family, and you know, and so on. So that gives you less time to have babies. So if you're squeezed for time, rather than having 2, you just settle for 1, for example. Yes? So you're saying the expensive costs of education. Okay, so very true. It is said that a child in Korea costs parents about more than $300,000 to fully raise. That's more than 3억, right? So people who are not well off, they think twice before they have a second child. And you know, we say jokingly, even among professors, if one of our colleagues has like 3 children, we jokingly say, "Oh, you must be rich," right? I mean, if we say this even among us, you know, if you just see someone with like 3 children walking around, I think your immediate reaction is probably that, really, right? That, oh, they must have money, right? Because it does cost a lot of money to raise a child because of what? Education, private education, right? Anyone else? Reasons for the low birth rate in Korea? Yeah?
This is just an idea, but when we discussed divorce, you told us that there's less of a stigma now in society against people who have divorced. So kind of my idea is that there's less of a stigma about not having children, because in the past, if you didn't have children, people would point fingers and say that's a very odd family, but I think that's less of a phenomenon now in society.
Okay, very good. I think there is a growing acceptance of couples who don't have babies. Whether it's voluntary or not, let's not get to that, okay? But do you know that 1 in 8 couples cannot naturally have babies? Isn't that amazing? 1 in 8 couples So why, you know why that is a good indicator? I'm not pointing a sort of a finger at either side, because I think it's usually, you can't really say which side is more responsible, but for one thing for sure, for men, one of the biggest problems is that sperm count for men living in Seoul is really, really low. Why? Stress, competition. Okay? So to make a baby, you need a healthy couple. Healthy meaning to reproduce. But one of the two sides, if it's not really reproductive, then there is this problem, right? That's why, because our fertility rate is so low, the government pays for everything, for all the tests and for the artificial insemination. So that's the kind of crisis we're in. The government is paying for all this for free, just to raise our fertility rate. Okay? So I'm sure even you're, in a way, aren't you shocked? 1 in 8 couples cannot have a baby naturally. Okay? So, so when you rely on this artificial insemination, chances are you'll have like twins or triplets. Okay? Any other reasons for the low birth rate? Yes? Wow, it's a very perceptive comment. And not necessarily because of shortage of brides, because again, you know, more than, for all the men who got married in the countryside, more than 35% got married to foreigners. And again, that's not because we have a shortage of brides. That hasn't happened yet. It's just that women living in urban centers just do not want to marry these men in the countryside. So, but we have an increasing number of people in their 30s and 40s who do not get married because they don't have money, okay? And because they don't have a stable, good job, okay? So number one reason for not getting married in Korea is that they don't have money. Isn't that really crazy? I mean, money, you know, is not unimportant, but it has become too big an issue in Korea. Okay? As I told you before, you cannot be happy with if you don't have enough money to live. But once you have enough, more you have, the more happy you're not. Okay? As long as you have enough, that's all you need, right? To be happy. And yet, there are, I guess, some people who just don't have enough. And that's what makes a lot of people stay single. Okay? Anyone else on the reasons for the low birth rate in Korea? Yeah, let's see what we have. Getting married at an older age, so this was mentioned. And just for international comparison, females aged 30 to 34, percentage never married. Look at this, Ireland. And percentage never married and not cohabiting. So what this shows you is that in Western Europe, at least, and Northern Europe, a lot of people live together without getting married. Okay? It's a trend. And, you know, having baby in this living arrangement is also no problem. It's not something looked down on or with strange looks as it would be in Korea. so I just mentioned this just now, right? That a growing number of people stay unmarried for many reasons. Some people just are fed up with you know, the institution of marriage because I think they have seen what marriage is like, you know, just looking at their own parents, right? And they go, that's not for me, right? Also, I think one of the, this is really the number one reason, the lack of financial resources. So like money for janse and so on. Third, high childcare costs and lack of affordable childcare facilities. I think these are really minor reasons, I think. I mean, look, if you ask your own self, you know, do you really think of that as a problem? I don't think so, right? It's really about high cost of raising a child and the stress that comes with it, right? Because when you have a child, you want your child to succeed in society, but having lived in this society and having competed so much to get to where you are today, you probably don't want to have your child go through the same thing. Yes? Yes. So I think something that I never thought about, how, because elderly welfare is largely in the hands of offspring, right? So they are burdened with the cost of sort of, you know, taking care of their aging parents, and when they have that burden, they're less likely to have children because there will be additional financial burden. Good, high education costs. Korea's per capita private spending on education is the highest in the world. Number one, okay? So, as I've been saying this, maybe I said this before or not, I don't know. But one reason why the economy in Korea is not sort of reviving, I argue, two things. Too much of our money is sort of not being used or cannot be used because it has been spent on buying an overpriced house. So a lot of people, when they make money, they have to pay for the interest on the house. So much money goes into buying the house and paying for mortgage. Number two reason why Korean economy is sort of not doing well internally is because so much of our income is spent on private education. So the only thriving sort of industries in Korea today, right, are housing and private education. This is crazy, you know? You live once, should you just be working your behind off just to pay for house and then pay for the private education of your children? That's life that sucks. You gotta enjoy your life. But our society does not allow an average Korean to enjoy life, other than to drink some soju with samgyeopsal. There's got to be more to life than that outside, right? And if you ever think about why soju is so cheap, if you ever think about why Walmart is in every corner of the United States, I won't say why, but think about that. In relation to what society has in place to pacify its people, to appease them, to put their minds at ease, and not think about what should really bother them. Okay? Anyway, stress of raising children, definitely a big issue. See, even, I have 2 children. My wife and I sometimes talk about having a 3rd child, 3rd baby. And it would be so nice to have a 3rd child, but we can't because of what? This. It is really stressful. Okay? And I think when you guys get older and get married, I'm sure it's going to be really this, like determining how many children you have. It's really, never mind how much money you have, right? Because the stress will just be too much. Okay? And I've seen so many parents whose sort of happiness depended so much on their children's performance at school. It's just crazy. Okay? But one thing I want to praise you guys for is how much you must have made your parents happy, right? Yes or no? Give yourself a big hand. 6, high living costs. 7th, okay. High divorce rates. I think this is something that you may not think about, but it's definitely one of the factors. If you get divorced, of course, chances of having a child decreases accordingly. So that's just one of the things you could sort of think about. Other reasons for low fertility rate include prevalence and social acceptability of premarital sex, lack of leisure time, long work hours, lack of support for working pregnant women. I think this is also, but if you're to think about one most important reason, what could that be? Think about that. That's an exam. You have all these reasons for low birth rate in Korea, but if I ask you to name one that's the most important, why? Also, right? You have to sort of be able to think. 2 additional comments. Well, let me ask you, in terms of a universal trend, is fertility positively or negatively correlated with fertility rate? No. Did I start with the fertility rate? Is fertility rate positively or negatively correlated with educational level? Positive. So yes, universal trend is that fertility rate is positively correlated with opposite. Universal trend has it that fertility rate is negatively correlated with education. Higher the education level of women, lower the fertility rate. Right? It makes sense, right? Because people all over the world, if you're educated, you want to have few number of children because you want to enjoy the fruits of your success in a way, right? And in many ways, pregnancies are results of ignorance too. Okay, well, I'm talking about people in developing countries. Some of whom don't know how to use contraceptive methods or contraceptives, right? So again, I'm not making this up. It is definitely, fertility rate is negatively correlated with education. There is one country that is which is an exception. Name that country. Take a guess. One country that is an exception to this. Which country are we talking about here? Which country are we talking about? Like in this course? Yes, Korea. Wow, thank you. Korea is an exception because, like, women with like elementary or junior high level education, their fertility rate is below 1. But for those with university education, it goes like 1.3, 1.4. And university education is always correlated with, positively correlated with economic status and income. So this shows you that women with more income have higher fertility rate. So what does it tell you? In Korea, even with fertility rate, money talks. And that is terrible. It's a terrible sign for a society. Okay? And a country that has such a, never mind, it's too sad. So, fertility rate of, for example, 1.5 for women with college education and less than 1.1 for those with elementary education. Okay? And second, additional comment has to do with this. Now, families all over the world can be conveniently divided into two types. One is couple-based family. So in couple-based families, happiness of the couple is the most important thing. Okay? Children's happiness, secondary. Their welfare, secondary. In the child-based family, child's welfare, child's happiness are the most important. Now, in couple-based families, couples, you know, if they want to watch a movie, they'll, you know, have a babysitter come in to take care of the child or children, and then go see a movie. In Korea, does that ever happen? No. So, Korea is a which type? Or let's start with American families. Is a typical American family couple-based family or child-based family? Or families in the West? Are they couple-based or child-based? So let me put it this way. Which comes first, couple or the child? I'm surprised that you guys are thinking this hard. It is definitely couple first. Okay? Now, in the case of Korea, what is the answer? Child. Okay? Now, what that means is that in the couple, in the child-based family, you know, I think a healthy family, from what I see, is the one in which there is a sense of detachment between the parents and the children. Okay? So that parents, when their children grow up, there's this sense of letting go. Okay? Let them be. Okay? If they want to stay out till like 4 o'clock in the morning, let them be. Okay? Let them be financially independent. Okay? Let them date whomever they want, and let them marry whomever they want to marry. But what happens in Korea? Every little thing, parents intervene, because their own happiness depends on the welfare or the success of their children. Okay? See, again, degree of detachment, I think, is a good thing, because even in old age, a typical Korean parent hold on to their children. And when they don't have regular visitations or calls from their children, they get sad, they get depressed, because they never let their children go. Anyway, getting back to this fertility rate, if your own happiness depends so much on the success of your children educationally, does that put more stress on you, or compared to parents in couple-based countries? So the answer is, obvious, right? That in child-based families, parents are so much more responsible for the welfare of their children. It puts much more stress. So is it just a wonder, if you were to name 4 countries in the world that have the lowest fertility rate, you know what those are? Korea, Taiwan, Japan, Singapore. Is it just coincidental? These countries are child-based countries. Okay? So that's just a second additional observation. And if the low birth rate persists, the growth rate will be minus 0.2 in 2020. And that will be the first time in the Korean history where we will experience population negative growth. For the first time since the war. Okay, so the war, we can easily understand the reason why there was a population decline, because war killed people. Now, in this peacetime, we're, letting our population fall voluntarily. Okay? I think, so, as a society, we should all feel responsible, especially the elites, okay, who made it so difficult to raise a child. Okay? By 2030, the rate will fall even further to minus 0.25%. And it is forecast that Korea's total population is now 51 million. It'll fall to just over 42 million in 35 years. Okay? So, yes, we could look forward to less busy subways and less congested roads, but it's not really always such a nice thing, right? The UN report says that with the current population trends, Korea's population will drop to 5 million in 2200. So should you buy an apartment in Korea? No. Just kidding. And can become extinct by 2800. But should I tell you to have more children when you get married? My advice? No child. Well, that's too harsh. And my children should not hear this, but it's really, really stressful. Okay? So with the falling fertility rate and rapid aging of the population, the proportion of the economically active population, that is 15 to 64-year-olds, will fall from 71% of the total population in 2004 to just 53.7% of the total population in 2050. And so because of the low fertility rate, again, we don't have a labor shortage yet. But because of low fertility rate, that's going to happen soon. So we need to bring in more workers if we want to maintain the same level of economic performance. Okay? So we're going to have a real labor shortage starting from about 2020 because we started to experience this low fertility rate from the early 2000s. Okay? So only from about 15 years ago, we started to experience this low fertility rate. And that's going to really hit us in just 5 years. Because that's when the people who were born in 2000, for example, become sort of a working age, right? Reach the working age. I'm talking about those who do not go to universities, or even when they go to universities, you know, they could work part-time, right? So, I think by 2050, chances are, like taxi drivers will not be of Korean heritage. It'll be like when you visit New York or any popular destination in the States or Canada. I don't think I could ever run into a Caucasian taxi driver. It's always someone of ethnic, minority, right? Same thing will happen in Korea. Okay? And when you go to a restaurant, a lot of times we see Joseonjo, and maybe that their labor supply will not be enough. So we'll see people of other ethnicities serving us at restaurants. That's what I forecast for Korea. So again, we will need to bring in more workers just to maintain the current level of economic standards / performance, and more sort of in terms of what we are faced with economically. The problem with the aging population is that, as I mentioned earlier, because there is a less number of economically active population, the proportion of those who work versus the proportion of the population who are retired will become more or less 1-to-1. Okay? So here's a really nice picture. Ratio of workers to retirees. In 2005, 8 workers, okay, pay tax to provide welfare for the elderly. By 2020, it will be 4 providing subsidies for 1 elderly. By 2050, that's when you'll be like working really hard. So it'll be 1-to-1. So okay, the declining number of the economically active population brings many economic problems, and I'll just skip. And there are many public ads that are trying to encourage couples to have more children, right? Have you seen this ad? Now, but you take the subway on a regular basis, and what do you see? Typically, those 2 ends, right, on the subway are reserved for the elderly, right? But it's going to reverse. The last 2 ends will be reserved for children and maybe even young adults, and the rest taken up by the elderly. It's really an excellent public ad. So 1 is not enough. Have 2. Okay? That is to encourage couples to have more than 1 child. So the government is getting desperate, isn't it? And this is to discourage abortion. Okay? And this says, by mother, and this is the bloody handprint of the fetus. Okay? Okay. The last section, again, we started with this idea that Korea is bound to become more ethnically diverse, right? And one reason was that because of the low fertility rate, because of the rapid aging of the population, we need to bring in more workers. And we already have like 500,000 foreign workers living in Korea, but that number will be increased even more, okay? Just to maintain the current level of economic performance. The second reason why Korea is bound to become more ethnically diverse is that we will have to bring in more migrant brides. Okay, we already have like more than 200,000 migrant brides, but the number will drastically increase. Okay, and I'll tell you why that is the case. Okay, so see, if you look at from 1990, the total number of marriages was close to 400, and number of international marriages only 4,700 or so, and that amounted to only 1.2% of total marriages. But look, it's been increasing. In 2005, 13.5% of all marriages comprised of international marriages, and since then, it's has sort of dwindled. I don't know if I should use the term dwindle, but it has sort of hovered around 10%. Okay, so it'll be like 8, 9%, 10%, 11%. So you can see how again, this means that practically one in every 10 marriages comprises of international marriage. Okay, so that's quite a lot, right? If you think about it, because we're talking about like 30,000 marriages every year. Okay, 25,000. So if you add these numbers, you can see how we have that many foreigners living in Korea as permanent residents, unlike migrant workers who are expected to leave. These marriage migrants stay in Korea. Okay, so just if you just count the numbers here, so let's say that adds up to roughly over 300,000. So my initial number of 200,000 was too low. Okay, so 300,000, and they have children. So you have this case of the number of sort of non-purely Korean really multiplying. Okay, and number of international marriages. So foreign wife and foreign husband. So more Korean men marry foreign wife than the other way, right? Korean women marrying foreign husband, right? So, I showed you these like large number of Korean men typically marrying foreign wives, and just like migrant workers, we have these large number of foreign brides coming to Korea to marry and live with Koreans. Not because we have bride shortage. It's been because these men could not find Korean wives who are willing to, for example, come to live in the countryside. But in the near future, the number of foreign brides will significantly rise over the next decade or so because of Koreans' strong son preference. Okay? Son preference has affected sex ratio at birth in two ways. Those couples who had a son as the first child stopped having more babies. More importantly, the decades-long practices of some preference, that is, sex-selective abortions, have led to a serious imbalance in the sex ratio at birth. Now, what is the natural sex ratio at birth? Do you know what sex ratio at birth is? Sex ratio is the number of males per 100 females. That's the definition of sex ratio. Now, sex ratio at birth is what? Number of male birth per 100 female birth. That's the sex ratio at birth. And do you know, does anybody know what the natural sex ratio at birth is? It's 100 to 100? Then what is it? No, so you're going to learn something really interesting or important. Sex ratio at birth under natural setting is about 105 males born per 100 female birth. Isn't this amazing? This is universal trend. You cannot say, you know, it's different in Korea and it's different in North America. It is universal trend. Why do you think that more males are born than females? Why are more males born than females, naturally? And this is a hint. Ecosystem or nature knows how to reach equilibrium. You know what equilibrium is, right? State of balance. So I gave you a major hint. Why is it that nature grants more males to be born? Is it because we all live in sexist societies? That it makes more sense to have babies because we live in sexist societies. Is that a good answer to this?
Males are killed while
Do men hunt still? Okay, she has the right idea. More males are born because more males get killed before they reach a reproductive age. Okay? So throughout human history, you know, men went to war, right? Yeah, but you know, now we have this like age 18 and over age standard. But in the old days, you know, if you're like able to lift an arm, you went to a war, right? So this has meant that more males were killed, okay, before they reached the reproductive age. And things have changed, but it is still true that more males get killed before they reach reproductive age than females. Because boys, as you know, engage in more aggressive, violent sports and activities, right, than girls. So that's why I told you about the beauty of equilibrium, right? By the time girls and boys reach, let's say, the age of 16, 18, I don't know the exact time when they reach equilibrium, but it will be, let's say, 98 by the age of, let's say, 30. Isn't that something? And so again, that happens. But so 105 is the key number. And guess what has happened in Korea? Why do I have 1987 here? Yes, abortions have have become like a very widely practiced thing in 1987 because that is when ultrasound was introduced. So ultrasound is a wonderful medical technology, but it has brought a disaster in many countries. China, India, okay? Countries with same or even stronger sun preference, where in India it is believed that there are 30 million extra males. In China, the same thing, 30 million extra males. How was that possible? Abortions of female fetus. And what's the key thing? What's the normal sex ratio at birth?
Normal sex
Sex ratio at birth?
105.
Under 5. And what do we have here? So how was this achieved? Abortions of female fetus. And roughly, we're looking at numbers like 300,000, 400,000 every year. And these numbers have been accumulating. And the people who were born in 1987, how old are they now? They are 28. So in about 2-3 years, they'll be looking for a wife. And that's when they will face, for the first time, bride shortage, real bride shortage in their age group. Okay? So men in this room who are in, I'm sure you're all young, and you don't have nothing to worry about because you're a successful man, right? So when I said that there will be more migrant brides coming into Korea, that is because of this. Okay? And you know, with migrant workers, if technology develops and everything is machinized, you know, maybe their labor power can be replaced by robots or advanced technology, but wives cannot be replaced by anything other than other human beings. Okay? And that means millions in total. Okay? Or maybe that's too drastic. Hundreds of thousands of female migrant brides have to be brought in to Korea for the next 10-20 years just to ensure that we have brides for these men looking for wives. Okay? So last point about this. When all of this was happening, government, churches, every intellectual that I know looked the other way. They never said anything about how evil an abortion is. And don't think that I'm a creationist or pro-life person. I'm just sick and tired of double standard, of certain things that Koreans are so good at. And one of those is, if we let, you know, by conservative estimate, 2 to 3 million female fetuses were aborted, killed. And how is it that we take pride in our age counting system? Why do we always add 1 or 2 more years to our age? You know why? We proudly say, unlike the West, we start counting our age as soon as the baby is conceived. Do we say that or not? And yet, when millions of female fetuses were killed, we never said anything. If that was our philosophy, okay, how could we let so many female fetuses die? And even to this day, we have this so inconvenient Korean age counting system. Because you know why? Everything is so standardized, and yet, when it comes to age, it's always like, how old are you? You always get a second, you know, like a return question. Are you asking Korean age or Western age? You know, if I had any sort of a say on this, I'll make sure that we stick with one age counting system. And that is, I have to say, Western style. Okay? Just count the time that you lived on this earth. Okay? Because at least we have this dark history. Okay? And because of that, young people in this, in Korea have to endure the pain of not finding, Korean lives. Okay? So I hope we can start a cultural campaign not to have this Korean age counting system. Okay? Because it adds confusion and inconvenience. Like the singer P. I told you I hate this singer. Right? Just hate him. Why? Same thing. I ask someone, I ask people, do you like rain? Always the question, I get the second, return question. Are you talking about the natural phenomenon or the singer? For someone to come up with a name like that, it just makes me so sick. I'm sure there are many fans of me, but I just don't like the name. Okay? All right. Thank you, and group 1, get ready.